So this is my English summary for everybody who's not able to understand German of the Vayu wing, and I interviewed Dave Marten. The original video is linked somewhere here, and yeah, the first part of the interview was about the Vayu wing. Vayu is a pretty exciting new brand from Kiel, north of Germany, and I also tested the wings myself lately. Really enjoyed them, so I'm super stoked that we can talk about them a little bit more into depth. So I asked Dave first and foremost, like, how does the Vayu wing compare to all the other wings you already tested? And Dave Marten is a pretty, decent, or I would say even a great water sports addicted guy. And he is at home in various disciplines, and he is one of the guys, I would say, in the south of Germany that has tested the most brands. So he tested Duotone, Slingshot, F1, Roberto Ricci, Ansys, Air Rush, Nash, many, many more. I'm sure I forget a dozen wings companies he tested. So he knows what he's talking about, and he's a pretty honest guy. So basically Dave's answer was that the Vayu wing is somewhat a combination of an Duotone wing and an Ansys wing. This is where the roots of the wings are. And he also said that every wing has obviously its pros and cons. Some are better, some are worse, but sometimes it's also about your personal needs or your personal preferences. So he said that the Vayu wing is, for his personal needs and preferences, the best out there because it's the most balanced one. As Dave is a team rider, I think that is first and foremost nice, but also that's probably the reason why he signed as a team rider with Vayu. And so the Vayu wing, it has a super stable profile. That's what Dave said, which makes a really great low end and great jumping abilities and overall handability. I only tested the 6.4, but I can totally agree with that statement. Dave also said that he loves the boom and that it makes his riding more intuitive and easier. That's something, for me personally, that I can also agree with. I would not recommend a boom to a total beginner, especially if you don't have a windsurfing background, but that's something that, because people are struggling a bit more with hand placement. So where do I put my hands? Where do I need to grab the wing? How do I exactly hold it? But once you figured out how to handle a wing, once you figured out the basic riding technique and the jibes and the foiling, and you want to progress into tags and into jumps, then a boom can really make your life a lot easier, at least to my personal experience, because you can basically, when you're tagging, you can grab it without really looking where you need to get the handle. When you're really, really well connected with your wing, like I had this one wing that I was riding every session, the same size, the same wing. It was a Roberto Ricci 4 meter. It felt the same, but it took me a lot more practice to exactly find the handle without looking for it. And especially in low wind, that can make a difference. But enough of my personal experience. This is a summary of the interview with Dave, but I'm going to add some little information here and there. So then I asked Dave, like, if you say it's the most balanced wing right now for your personal preferences, what are your personal preferences exactly? And Dave said, basically, he's a Wingfoil rider that is located at the lakes of Germany's mainland, which means gusty conditions, a lot of low wind. Sometimes you have super high wind, but then it's extremely gusty. You don't get any swell. Sometimes you get some little wind swell when it's really, really on, but most of the time you're riding on flat water or choppy water. So he said that his personal preferences for wing are good pumping abilities, because especially in gusty conditions, he wants to make the most out of a gusty low wind day on his home spot. And what makes a wing great for pumping is a high profile stability, because that means that the energy you put into the wing when you're pumping gets translated into momentum that brings you on the foil, that brings you up in the air and flying. And I just want to add, like, if you're on a gusty lake, you need to pump a lot, because even if you catch a gust, the wind might drop down. You can't stay on the foil. Even if you pump through the holes, sometimes the lull of the wind is too big or too long, so you have to get down planing again, and then you have to pump it up again with the next gust. And if you have a shitty day, that means a lot of pumping. So you really want to save some energy in these conditions. Second thing that he mentioned is he wants great jumping abilities, which means a great pop. But he also said like great pop is something that a lot of wings can give you, because it's basically something that also comes from your board technique and your foil and stuff. So the main job of the wing is to keep you flying, give you some kind of hang time, and also like bring you down easily and make your landing smooth. And obviously that's also big, as a matter of fact, that a big part of that is your riding technique. But if you have the same riding techniques, the same rider, same conditions, and you just compare a couple of wings, some wings will give you great hang time and a great soft landing, and others won't. And that's also something that I can really highly agree with. Like, I jumped the Vayu right out of the bed, so 6.4 in very low wind, and I felt like that was a decent jump. And I also felt like I could basically fly a little bit with the wing and not just drop down, smack down after a great pop-up. Then he also said like he wants handling for him personally that is super easy and intuitive, and that's why he really prefers the boom of the Vayu, and that the wing needs to feel light and not heavy when you're riding. He mentioned that the Vayu is not the lightest wing on the market. Certainly it is not, especially because it has a boom attached to it, but it's okayish light, and when you're handling it, it feels pretty light. He also said that the wingspan adds value to the handling, because if you have a compact wingspan, so a wing that is not spread out super wide, it makes it easier to pump the wing. It makes duck jibing easier and stuff like that without the wingtips catching water. The Vayu comes in 4 sizes: 3.4, 4.4, 5.4 and 6.4. And this is some info that I don't have from Dave, but from Philip Horn, the founder and one of the main guys behind the brand, that I interviewed recently. The interview is not out there yet, but it's coming. And he said that they developed the 5.4 and they didn't know what size it was. So they just started developing the first wing, and it turned out to be a 5.4 when they measured it. And then they started taking this original 5.4 prototype that they liked the most and scaling it up and down to create the other 3 sizes. And that's why Vayu has now this kind of a little bit of strange but also interesting sizes, that is 3.4, 4.4, 5.4 and 6.4. Yeah, and then Dave also added that even the 6.4 has a great balance for the wingspan. Dave is about 1.81 m tall. I can agree with that. I'm 183, 184, something like that. And 6.4 is still easy to pump. I have my troubles sometimes with the 7. Dave also said like a 7, sometimes he cannot pump it because the wingtip is constantly catching water. That doesn't go for the 6.4 Vayu wing. So I finally asked him like, how big does the 6.4 Vayu feel to you? Because for me, if I hear 6.4, it sounds big. My 6 is already as big as I want to go. I don't want actually anything bigger than 6.4. And Dave said actually the 6.4 feels with the handling like a 6, maybe even a little bit smaller, but gives you the power of a 6.4, maybe a 6.5. And that was Dave's infos on the Vayu wing. So something that is personally my experience with the Vayu wing and with the boom. I really loved riding with the boom. It makes my riding so much easier. So as I said, I would not recommend it for a total beginner. I would probably not school or teach someone with a boom. Even it might work. I didn't actually give it that much tries. But I personally, as a more experienced, more advanced rider, love it. And what I really like about the Vayu is because it's foldable, I don't have to attach and detach it. I'm a pretty nerd when it comes to getting on the water as fast as possible. So because it makes my life easier, it gives me more sessions, it gives me more freedom to also go out for 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes sometimes. If I'm on the water in a couple of minutes, it really lowers the barrier, the mental barrier of going through the rigging. So the foldable boom makes my life super easy. You just attach the pump to the wing, you pump it up, you get the boom, you hit the water. One side note, because I don't want to make it all piffy puffy, whatever it is. The Vayu is missing a deflation valve on the middle strut. That's something that I don't like that much because it just makes rigging down a little bit more effort. It's not a big issue, but a pro tip that Philip gave me, Philip Horn, the one of the owners and founders of Vayu, he said, if you're really so nerdy about getting on the water as fast as possible and going and rigging down as fast as possible, just click the one pump valve off the middle strut and just leave the air in the middle strut and just roll it up as we did in the early days of kiting when we didn't have one pump. So you just leave the air in the middle strut, and when you rig it down, you put it in your car, you throw it on top of your board, whatever. And as the Vayu wing has no windows, which is a whole different discussion, but here it's an advantage because you can throw it under your board, over your board, wherever it goes. Even with air in the middle strut, you won't hurt the windows. So we have 2 more videos about the Vayu wing, which I summarize in English from the original interview with Dave Marten, which is unfortunately in German. Check them out. See you there. Bye bye.